What's up, everyone? Joined alongside Kelsea O'Brien from Raptors Republic and the Dishes and Dimes podcast, here to talk about Mafuzi Chef, Serge Ibaka, and his impending free agency. Kelsea, Serge is obviously a Raptors icon, a legend in his own right, on and off the court. Even if he leaves, he'll be one of those beloved Raptors everybody remembers. But do you think, I'll just kind of start it off generally here, do you think re-signing him is the right call?
Yes.
Okay.
I think re-signing him for what he brings off the bench, what he brings in the locker room, and what he brings on the court is super important.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I would agree with you too. I think he's become one of the leaders of this team, and I think that's
Mhm.
important going forward, continuity wise. He's going to be a highly sought out free agent, though. He's definitely going to be one of those guys that gets calls from numerous teams. And I was watching a couple videos yesterday, and he's definitely not going to be going for a short term deal at this point, especially at his age. He's probably going to look for long term money. Would you say that makes it tougher to bring him back, knowing the cap implications and what he's expecting from his side?
I think so. I also think the fact that he's coming off a $23 million contract
Mhm.
doesn't help him in free agency because that is a lot to pay for someone who is in their 30s.
Right.
And especially if he's looking for a long-term deal, I think the leverage that Toronto has is that he knows he can win here. He's been here for so long, and he really does enjoy both the team and the city. So I think they can kind of work with him in that sense. But I don't think any of the other teams that are looking at him seriously and that he would seriously consider really have the cap space to sign him to anything even remotely close to what he's on now.
Yeah, yeah. And there's this idea that the Raptors can try to offer him short-term money, like big short-term money, go for like I think I saw an article today, 28 million, something big, just kind of like Kyle Lowry-esque, where you say thank you for the championship. Um, would you think that's something Serge would even consider?
I think he would consider it because I think if it's coming from Toronto, he feels secure here. He knows he's not going to be traded away like he was in Orlando or like he was in Oklahoma City. He knows what he brings to the table here, and the Raptors know it as well. So I
Right.
don't think that signing short term would be detrimental to either him or the Raptors.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes the most sense for both sides, just obviously financially for the Raptors, and then for Serge to kind of get a culmination of everything he's worked for this season, because he's had a really, really good season. This is one of his best seasons of his career. He was an offensive juggernaut off the bench. He was just incredible, and even in the playoffs, he provided a lot. Do you think if him and Mark come back, Serge would end up being the starter, since Mark is kind of getting up there in age, and obviously he probably won't be able to contribute as much in terms of minutes.
I think so. I don't think that they would have really a primary starter. I think it would be entirely matchup based at this point because
Mhm.
they've both proven that they can match up well against certain teams. And there's no issues with either of them coming off the bench. I know if he were to go to another team and they would ask him to come off the bench, that would be completely out of the question, and rightfully so. He's earned that starting position. But I don't think outside of Toronto that anyone else has really the luxury of being able to flexibly move their starting center to the bench or their center to the starting lineup.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits the Raptors had all season, where they had two guys where there wouldn't be that much of a drop off if one of the centers came in. And Serge, rightfully, like you said, he is a starter in this league. He can definitely be a starter. So, a lot of the concerns, I guess, were on the defensive end for Serge, because he kind of seemed like he had a couple of lapses. He wasn't. I guess he just feels like he isn't engaged defensively, right? Do you think that with the Raptors build of being this dominant defensive team and working towards that, do you think that would be kind of something that he'd have to try to improve on? Like, do you think there's some untapped potential there?
Oh, I mean, if you look at his size and you look at the way that he can move, there's definitely room to become a solid defender. And I think if he's going to rewatch the playoff run that the Raptors had this year, he's going to realize what he needs to work on. And I think coming off the bench this season actually humbled him in that way, and that he does realize what he brings versus what Mark brings. So
Mhm.
I think if he wants to be the permanent starting center, he is going to realize these things and he is going to work on them. And I think he's one of the only players that's outside of Kyle Lowry that's going to come back in their 30s and be even better.
Yeah, the thing is, he's improved his 3-point shot too. Like he's really gotten better at that, and I guess it goes to show you, like even this late into your career, I think he's 11-year career. He's still constantly improving and working on stuff. The thing I wanted to ask though, offensively, if you were to kind of pick somewhere where you think an area where he would have to improve, what do you think that area would be?
Um, Probably take being conscious of the shots that he's taking.
Okay, all right, shot selection, got you.
Just because you are hot doesn't mean you have to take them all. And
Hmm.
I think he kind of struggles with that when he realizes, I am scoring a lot, but you don't need to be the only one scoring.
Right, right, yeah,
So definitely, I mean, passing would definitely be, he needs to, what Serge lacks in passing abilities and playmaking abilities, Marc Gasol kind of makes up for.
right.
So if you were to take that out of Marc Gasol's repertoire, he would be unstoppable.
Yeah, and I mean, if you were to add, oh my God, the passing. Well, I mean, I remember there was a quote earlier this year in the regular season where he said Mark has really impacted how he's looked at the game offensively, passing wise, and he's tried to improve in that. So, I mean, hopefully he takes another step forward, and if they do end up both re-signing, that could be something that we see as well. If you had to pick though between Gasol and Ibaka in terms of fit, in terms of direction, of the Raptors going forward in the future, who are you going with? Who are you siding with here?
Serge Ibaka.
Serge Ibaka, eh? Okay. All right. Why?
I feel like he has a lot more unlocked potential. I feel like we've seen the peak of Marc Gasol,
Mhm.
and I don't think that he's going to be adding anything anytime soon.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's totally fair, to be honest with you, just because the age and realistically, it's getting to the point where we don't even know how many minutes Gasol could play on a night, type of thing. So I that makes
And
sense.
I don't want to see it go out that way.
Right. Yeah, that's true too. That's a good point. I just feel like Surge at the same time can come with a heavy price tag this season, and it depends on if the Raptors will be able to match it. It's going to be an interesting offseason. So I'll ask you this: what are some other destinations you think would be a good fit for Ibaka?
None.
Stay home. Stay home. Right.
Yeah. I mean, the Rockets have proven that they do need a center after all.
Yeah.
So that could work, but I mean, they're not going to pay him what he's worth. It's the Rockets. It's Tillman Fertitta, so they're
Right.
not going to pay him what he's worth. I think he's at a point in his career where he's not going to go to anyone that's not a championship contender.
Yep.
So other teams that could use him and do have the cap space, he's probably not going to even listen to or take a meeting with. So I
Well,
think,
what about a
sorry.
Brooklyn? What about a Brooklyn? Because there was that idea. I don't know if they necessarily have the cap space. They'd have to move some stuff around.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Team up with Kevin Durant again.
exactly. Right.
Possibly. I don't want to think about it, but possibly. Um, yeah, maybe Brooklyn, but I'm hoping it's safe to say that he's probably most likely staying in Toronto.
Yeah, yeah, and especially with everything that's going on, like there's so much uncertainty with the cap, and then with COVID-19 being able to travel, et cetera. Right? There's a lot of reasons for not just Surge, but a lot of free agents to decide we're going to stay, kind of take short term money, see what we can work out, and then when the cap goes up, figure it out later. Right?
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think there'll be a lot of moves made this offseason.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. If okay, so we'll finish it off with this. If you had to make a pitch to Serge Ibaka to stay, what is your exact pitch? What's going on in that pitch book?
Look what we gave you, Serge. Look what we gave you in Toronto. You found a home. You found a permanent home. You finally got a ring. I mean, the city loves you. The fans love you. Your team loves you. You've blossomed into this beautiful version of yourself. Not physically. You were always beautiful physically, but every aspect of your game has improved since you've been here. And even if it is short-term money, Toronto's going to treat you well. They're not going to let you go out like someone sitting on the end of the bench, like a Jared Dudley or even like Vince Carter. So stay in Toronto. You know what you have. The devil you know, Serge, is better than the devil you don't. Please stay.
Okay,
I love you.
okay, all right. I think that's a good pitch. I think if Messiah Ujiri's listening, he's probably going to take some notes from that pitch. All right, cool, Kelsey, appreciate it. If there's any updates, we'll come and update you on the Serge Ibaka news. Appreciate it.
Okay,
All right.
perfect. Thanks so much. Talk to you later.